Hi everyone, welcome. I'm down here in my wormery preparing to check in on a bin of what I call the mixed red worms. It's just a population of worms that includes red wigglers, European night crawlers, and Indian blue worms. We've got kind of a novelty setup going on over there. All my newer stuff over here is sort of very generic. There's nothing really interesting feeding patterns or anything weird going on. Test materials. Here we've definitely got a test material. In the mixed red worm bin, we've been running these guys for the past 122 days in a bedding consisting of twine rope. Well, we haven't limited them to having only that as their bedding, so we've been supplementing it with typical routine type, shredded paper, cardboard type bedding and stuff like that. But the main thing is that system was built out of a weird material, kind of a slow composting bedding material, twine, and it puts a little twist into our check-ins. So I think they're due for a feeding. Maybe not desperately. It's been 10 days since the last feeding, but I figure we come in here anyway, give them a little treat, and see what else they need, if anything. So let's get to work. If you were to compare today's feeding of potato peels and cabbage, it's not really the sweet type of a feeding like what they got last time, where they got stuff like cucumber and cantaloupe melon rinds. This is a little bit more vegetable and less fruit based. So this top covering, well, I don't think there's really any way for me to retrieve the center section of this top covering piece of newspaper. But sometimes I like to see what I can do in terms of squeaking just a little bit more life out of a nearly at end of life object, such as just unfolding these ends and suddenly being equipped with a whole bunch more surface area with which we can cover up at the end. I guess the other option would be to just repurpose this stuff to be bedding to accompany today's feeding. Well, no, the bedding I'd really like to try to do away with are some napkins, so I gotta go get some of those to include with the food. And this stuff here, I think now that we've spread it out, definitely has the capability of covering some surface again. So that'll go back on as our top covering, perhaps for the last time, quite likely for the last time. Our feeding zone indicator is holding up together quite nicely still. So let's get into checking out the wormies. So now, as you can see clear signs of the twine in places. So right from the start, we had to sort of manhandle the material to be able to open up a little pit right in the middle where we would be able to always know that we can sort of easily excavate a little bit of a hole into which we could place foods. So here's some cantaloupe melon rind. Doesn't even seem like they've eaten much of it. Huh, okay. But then it started to seem like, maybe we can try to promote worm movement around the bin more by not focusing the food in just one spot like that. So first I nudged in the two outer edges. Oh wait, no, how did that go? Yeah. Or was that last time, the first time we did it? Maybe it was the first or second time, but we threw some bedding and food into these outer edges too, So my idea was to, instead of go for the outer edges like this, we would go for the outer edges like this time. Kind of alternating the location of the feedings. I guess I sort of expected the food from last time to be mostly gone. Cantaloupe rind, you'll usually find some of that tough outer skin of the rind remaining, but they typically whittle off all the nice soft material pretty quickly, but in this case it seemed like they hardly put a dent in it. Oh yeah, here's some of the stuff that we put in here last time too. Is we took a seed from a avocado and we hacked it into a bunch of little bits and dropped them in here as well as part of the last feeding. So that stuff will probably be aided in the breakdown process by being fragmented into small pieces. Here they've done a little bit of a better job, I think, nibbling off the melon. No? Feels thinner to me. I don't know, maybe I'm just imagining. Yeah, definitely much thinner than the other piece. This one bends at least. The other one is still pretty much loaded up with yummy melon on it still. So, I still got to go fetch the napkins that we want to use as bedding with today's feeding. So I got a whole bunch of them. They've just got to go. Be right back. So now these things are pretty big, and I got 3 of them. So one will go down into this middle feeding zone, but in a way we're creating 3 feeding zones. And we're going to try to divvy up the food in a fair way so that each gets a fair shake at the food. Good bit of potato over here. And I guess we can, well, we want to save some of this more dense stem portion of the cabbage, I think. So we'll save this for the outer feeding zones, because we want to leave a little space down in here into which we can return some of these old things. There was even a couple pumpkin stems, which I know are going to take a good long time, but well, 122-day-old system at this point, after 10 days, getting its 10th feeding. I think has a good ways to go. Plenty of time to work that sort of stuff down eventually. And well, just a few more things. I think this was chestnut, maybe, just based on the way it feels. Feels like it's kind of getting crumbly and soft, like it's going to go. But before we open up the long outer edges, let's just take a peek at how the feeding that we put into these outer edges on the smaller edges are coming along after 10 days. Are there leftover bits of food? Are there worms? Well, I think in terms of whether or not there's worms, I think that's clear. There's plenty of them, and they're quite content looking, or at least happy and healthy looking. It's pretty easy to, I don't know, pretty easy to mistake that sort of thing, though. I'm definitely not like a worm doctor. I could be looking at a very ill worm, and I could be easily mistaking it for a very sick one, I believe. So, yeah, things look really good out there, all the way out to the edge. That covering that we're using, that plastic-wrapped cardboard, seems to be doing a really good job. Some sort of weird, funny thing going on here. I've got to kind of do a reality check on this, because one constraining aspect of this system was always how all this rope is so huge, and it's certainly nowhere even close to starting the breakdown process. Well, maybe the starting of the breakdown process has begun, but clearly everything that was a piece of rope is most likely still a piece of rope, even the thinnest stuff. But it almost felt like this stuff was much more granular in a way, like I could, well, no, I mean, my whole thing with this system always seemed to be like if I grab a piece of it, it almost seems like the entire thing is going to go, and I can almost lift up the thing as a mass and even inspect underneath it, which we've done a few times. It just feels like things are getting a little bit more crumbly or something. Or maybe just the castings starting to accumulate in between the pieces of string and rope are all just kind of acting almost like a lubricant, allowing things to shift and slide around a little bit. So let's make space out here in these edges now, which we've not really looked at much. And here's even some more food that snuck over here. A little piece of cantaloupe melon rind. Or maybe I just accidentally dislodged it from the center feeding zone somehow. I wasn't really paying too much attention, but I think we can come in here with approximately half of the potato and one of these nice big chunks of cabbage. I don't think we added grit in the center feeding zone, but we'll throw some in here to make up for that. Let's see how things on the other edge look. Probably just as nice. I'll tell you, these mixed red worms, they never seem to let me down. They're always entertaining to spend time with. They always seem to be doing a really good job on breaking stuff down. It's almost like watching one of those tag team wrestling matches, because perhaps now in the cooler months, when, for example, the Indian blue worms might be a bit slowed down due to the cooler temperatures, the red wigglers, European night crawlers that also occupy this bin with them can kind of make up for the slight shortfall in their productivity and pick up the slack in a way. No? So, I don't know. Just thinking out loud. Does seem to be like a good combo though. Although, you know, with the tropical worms, the Indian blue worms, things cool down, things also slow down. So that's that. So we'll use our traditional feeding zone indicator, although we've got 3 feeding zones at this point. I think we know where to look at this point. We're kind of getting into this alternating pattern, and I think I'll continue it with it next time as well. Is, you know, instead of feeding on those 2 outer edges here, next time we'll do them here again and alternate that way. So that's it for our check-in, everyone, with the now 122-day-old mixed red worms. Doing so nice in here. I like the system, and the twine definitely makes it interesting too. So that's it for the check-in, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.